Hey, Rocky Fork, thank you for joining us today. We hope that you will stay connected by downloading our app.
Good morning. I had to put my phone down because it can be a distraction, right? We've been talking about face-to-face interactions with Jesus, right? This morning we're going to talk about two which, in my mind, are really pertinent or really relevant to us today. Luke chapter 10, we're going to be talking and looking at an interaction or encounter that Jesus has with Martha and Mary, okay? Very good story, very powerful story. What I want to bring out of this message or out of this story is that the struggle of distraction and attraction are real, right? That we can be distracted and not pay attention, right, to the most important thing in life. That there's this need for us to do good things, but we don't always choose the best things, right? I don't think any of us in this room are thinking, well, after work, I'm going to go rob a bank, right? That's not what we're thinking about, right? We're thinking about the good things, like feeding the family and taking care of things, but that so often distracts us from doing the best thing possible, right? Yeah. The theme of attraction or attention and distraction are powerful. I mean, think about it just for a minute. When was the last time you put aside time just for you and God's relationship? Right? Where there was no TV in the background, there was no podcast playing, no music, no ball games on, no dinging from the phone, no distractions whatsoever. You worked really hard to remove all the distractions, and you stayed focused in that moment. Now, my brain goes in 1,000 directions, right? I begin prayers, but I often find myself sidetracked about something else, distracted. And it happens to all of us. We are interrupted, we are tempted, somewhere along the way we lose sight of the very thing we were seeking, and we become distracted, and we don't pay attention to the very person we need to be in a relationship with. I'm guilty of it. You know, I set out to do good things, but then I get distracted. And hopefully, this message is not just for me, listen to myself later, but maybe it's for the rest of us, right? Maybe you've had this experience where you're with family and friends, right? And maybe you're at the table, or maybe you're sitting watching a game, or maybe you're just having a moment, right? And all of a sudden you hear this ding, right? And your first reaction is to what? Look. That's the distraction, right? You have someone in front of you who is very important. We were in a restaurant the other night, and there was a couple sitting next to us, right? And they're sitting there, and they've probably been married, I'm guessing, as long as Jan and I have been married, probably 30 years or more. And both of them are doing this the entire meal. The chime and the buzz, right? The thing that calls us to check, the distraction that happens in the moment, pulls us out of the presence that we were in. There's obviously somebody very important sitting across the table from you, but suddenly this got your attraction, got your attention, and the other person's going to feel, I'm no longer important. How many people are familiar with Pavlov's dog, the theory of Pavlov's dog? Okay, so the theory goes something like this. Pavlov trained his dog, or did a study on his dog. He would feed the dog. He would ring a bell, and he would feed the dog, right? And he did this over and over and over again, right? It's conditioning. He did it over and over again. He'd ring the bell, feed the dog, and then eventually he began to ring the bell and take away the food, and the dog would salivate. He'd ring the bell, and the dog would sit there and wait for the food, right? And just drool. The same thing's happening to us. whatever the bell is or the chime or the buzz, I'm not saying you're salivating, but man, something has got you conditioned where I've got to check this, right? It might be one of my friends. It might be a doctor's appointment. It may be one of my coworkers. It may be some sports hero that I have who has tweeted something amazing, right? It's sad, but it's true. And if I'm honest, my relationship with God is not good. It's not where I want it to be. Because I am so easily distracted. And I don't know about you, but this is a painful sermon because I'm really talking to myself. The reality is we live in a world filled with distractions. And those distractions didn't come by accident. They are purposeful. They have meaning. They want you to take your eyes off Christ and focus on everything else and the noise that is happening around you. You understand that, right? There's a song. A lot of you may not know this song. I'm going to tell my age a little bit. A guy named Harry Chapin wrote a song years ago, Cats in the Cradle, right? Now, let me just read the words. I'm not going to sing it, okay? I've been advised not to sing. He says this. He says, "My child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way. But there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking for I knew it. And he grew. And he'd say, 'I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you.' And the chorus, you know the chorus, the cat's in the cradle, silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you coming home, Dad, I don't know when. Yeah, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then." You know what's sad about that song? It reveals our regrets. It reveals our distractions of what really is important in life, the things that we're going to miss out on. The dad misses out on his young son growing up, and then later in the song, the roles kind of reverse, right? Where the dad is saying, "Hey, we should get together," and the son is now saying, "Hey, life's busy, the kids are growing up. Man, I don't really have time. We'll get together, but I just don't have time right now," right? And it just kills me. The song is powerful because it points out often in life we allow ourselves to become distracted and lose sight of what is most important. It's not that we chose bad things. We didn't choose the best. Anybody else feel that? Anybody else feel the distraction and the noise and the pressure of the world? All right, I guess I'm it. All right, well, I'll continue on. You know, and so often we think, well, you know, that's just life. It's just busy, right? I got to pay the bills. I got to work. It's just life. The other day I had somebody talking to me, and this is what they did the entire time we were talking. I was talking, and they were looking at their phone, right? Now, I get it. And it's a generational thing, right? And somebody may say, "Boomer, you're going to have to get over that," right? But it may be true. But I will tell you how I felt. I felt like I was the only one who was invested in the conversation. I felt like I didn't matter. What we say with our actions, where we spend our attraction and our attention, says a lot about us. What I am attracted to, I will face. I will engage. I will spend my attention. What I am distracted at, I will do the opposite, right? I will turn my back to it. I will walk away from it. I will disregard or not pay attention to. You see that, right? There's a law. It's almost like the Pavlov's dog, right? It's almost like that theory of reaction to Newton's third law of physics, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? If I don't pay attention to you, what's the reaction? Eventually, I'm going to say, okay, that's probably about all I can handle, right? There's no relationship here. But if I pay attention to you, right, the reaction is much closer, right? Why would we expect our relationship with God to be any different? Every distraction has a cost. You know that? Every distraction has a cost. It also has a benefit because you're paying attention to something, right? And it's going to benefit, but the distraction is going to cost you something. The distractions, often, we think we're choosing what is good, but we're not choosing what's best. Leaving our hearts feeling lonely and unfulfilled. Our souls are unable to be attentive or attracted to what we know is best. So here's the question. Here's the question this morning. How do we overcome the distractions and become fully attentive to the presence of God? How do we become present in the face with God? How do we come to that face-to-face moment where we are not distracted, that we are all in the moment? So let's read Luke chapter 10, and let's see this interaction between Martha and Mary and Jesus. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, they were traveling, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to them. And she had a sister named Mary. Now let me push pause there for just a moment because there's a lot of things we need to fill in, the context behind the story, around the story, to make it make sense, right? Jesus is traveling, probably with 12 disciples, maybe more. They're going from place to place. He's preaching about the kingdom of God. He's sharing the good news, and Jesus is healing and performing miracles. He's doing all these amazing things. And Martha, somewhere along the way, hears that Jesus is in the area. She goes out, and she says, you need to come to our house and eat, right? Bring your whole group. Now, let's just basically say it's 12, all right? Let's just say it's 12. We don't know exactly how many, but we're going to go with 12, all right? Anyway, they come to a place called Bethany where Martha and Mary live. And we know this because later on in Scriptures we're going to be introduced to a guy named Lazarus who has two sisters named Martha and Mary. And they live in Bethany, just outside of Jerusalem, just over the hill. You've got, as you leave Jerusalem gates, you will go down into the valley of Kidron Valley. You'll go up into a place called the Garden of Gethsemane. We've heard of that before, right? And over that mountain, you go into a little place called Bethany. That's where they live. Now, it's very easy to get confused because there are 6 Marys in the New Testament. All right? I'm not going to try to extract and make that very clear in a moment because we don't have the rest of the day. All right? But I'm going to tell you, this Mary we're talking about is not Jesus' mom. She is not Mary Magdalene. She is Mary, the sister of Martha and Lazarus. Okay, we can kind of lay that groundwork and go from there? Okay, all right. The same Lazarus who Jesus is going to later raise from the dead. After being dead in the grave for 4 days, Jesus is going to come out, and he's going to say, Lazarus, come out of the grave. Come on out. See what you want, right? Let's go back to verse 39. Martha had a sister named Mary who sat at Jesus' feet listening to what he said. Verse 40. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him, Jesus, and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? I'm not sure it's a question. As a husband, I'm thinking that's probably not a question, right? It's more of a directive. Don't you see what you're doing wrong, right? And then she says, tell her to help me. It's not a question. Tell her to help me, Jesus. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha. Every time I read that, I think, Marcia, Marcia, right? I don't know why. Why? It shows my age, right? Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Let's unpack that, okay? Because there's a lot said there, okay? Let's go back to our question just for a moment. How do we overcome the distractions in our lives and be attentive to God? We're asking that question and we're looking at these scriptures, okay? How do we do that? Maybe Mary and Martha can teach us something. Maybe we'll see ourselves. Maybe we'll find some way for us to commit to being in the presence, in the relationship, in the moment, instead of distracted or being aloof or not in the moment, right? Or being too busy. Let's start with Martha. Remember, Martha's the one who invites Jesus to her house. That's the first good thing she does, right? That's amazing. Can you imagine how hungry those guys were? Wow, we're going to get a home-cooked meal. What an amazing thing, right? They couldn't pull over and go to McDonald's, right? They couldn't go to Texas Roadhouse and wait for 50 minutes. That's not the way it works. So when Martha says, hey, come to my house, I'll take care of you guys. We'll wash your feet, you can get cleaned up a little bit, we'll have a meal, we'll just share some time. That's what she's inviting them to do, right? But soon after Jesus and his disciples get there, things get out of focus for Martha pretty quickly. Great intentions, somewhere between the invite, the arrival, and everybody in the house, she loses focus. Not only about you, but I would think of Martha in this situation. It makes me think of somebody who's anxious, someone who's nervous, someone who's stressed out because all the guests are in her house. Now, I don't know if she went to Jesus and she said, Jesus, you need to come to our house, if she really thought about how many were going to follow him into the house too, right? I don't know. But I could imagine she probably thought, well, just bring them all, right? She's got too many things pulling her in different directions. The distractions with the food preparation, places for everybody to sit, right? Is the house clean, right? Do I have drinks? Do I have all the cups, the bowls, the silverware? Is everything prepared? Is the floor vacuumed, right? I'm going to tell my wife, and I may not tell her next service. All right, so I was away this weekend and went to Ohio to an Air Force museum. Spent 9 hours looking at airplanes. I know some of you are thinking, you're a nut, right? I get home, first thing my wife says to me, glad you're home, the vacuum cleaner's broke. Or are you glad to see me, or are you glad that I'm going to fix the vacuum cleaner, right? So I start working on the vacuum cleaner right away. Now, her brain is easily boom, boom, right? Yeah. You're home, fix the vac. Glad to see you. Right? I may not tell her that later. How many of you have been in a place like that, right? Maybe people show up, right? And you're like, ooh, laundry's on the floor, beds aren't made, I haven't vacuumed, I don't know how much food's in the house. This is going to be stressful, right? Or maybe you even know that people are coming and you're still stressed, right? And you're in the kitchen or you're preparing things and you're all wrapped up in the moment and in the preparation, but you don't spend time with the people you invited over. Yeah. That's where Martha's at. She's not distracted by bad things. She's doing good things. And that's probably true of all of us. We're not distracted by bad things. We're distracted by good things that keep us from focusing on the very best thing. But Martha isn't just distracted. You know, Martha's upset. Right? She's distracted in the kitchen because Jesus is in the other room teaching. That's her distraction. She gets so upset, she goes into the other room and says, Jesus, look. Aren't you concerned that I'm in there working? Tell my sister to come help me. And then, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Mary, on the other hand, is someone who's ditched the distractions, right? She's focused on Jesus. She gives Jesus her full attention. Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus, taking in his words like it's a feast, like it's a meal for somebody who's been in the desert for a very long time. Every word he says, she's digesting, thinking about. She is breathing in every instruction, every piece that he's given. I mean, you know what it's like when you get under the water for a long time. Maybe you swim for a little bit under the pool, and then that first breath when you hit the top, right? That's how she's bringing it all in. Every word of Jesus, she's bringing it in like it's the first time she breathed. Like, this is so refreshing. And Mary seems to be the opposite of Martha. And it feels like she's got this attitude of calm, right? A quiet presence. Focus, just in the presence, just being in the one thing, in the one moment at the time, right? Jesus is here. I'm going to focus on him. Martha's anxious. She's worried. She's upset. She's unable to enjoy Jesus' presence. And that's the tension, right? That's the tension all of us feel. So here's a question. Why are we so distracted? Are the distractions so loud? Or is the attention to Jesus so low? It's a good heart question, isn't it? Kind of checks you, right? How many of you understand that Jesus is here right now? Okay. He's with us. He is in this room. Where 3 or more gather, I am there. Well, I'm not great at math, but I see 3 more, right? I'm fairly sure of it. We have sung praises about him. We have sung to him. We have celebrated him. We have celebrated communion with him. We have prayed with him. We have prayed in his name. He's here. Are you here? Well, yeah, I'm here present. I'm here, right? No, are you here spiritually? You're here physically. Are you present in the moment? I want you to notice 3 things that Mary does. Very important. All right? She sat at Jesus' feet. She didn't bring stuff to do at Jesus' feet. She didn't bring her homework. She didn't bring her laptop. She didn't bring a bunch of stuff and just sit in the room and say, oh, I'm there, but I'm not really there. She sat at the feet of Jesus. Now, there's a couple things that are very clear when we see that. She is submitting herself, that she sat on the floor in front of Jesus, putting herself in a place of, I want to learn everything I can from Him. I am yielding my spirit, all my priorities, everything that I have put myself in a position where I can learn and love Jesus like He loves me. She is face to face with Jesus. The other thing is this, is Mary is listening. Right? Not only is she sitting, she's listening. She's listening to everything He says. She's listening to every word. Her attention is undivided. He is the most important person in her life in this moment. Third, Mary chooses to be in Jesus' presence. Chooses. Her choice. They didn't flip a coin in the kitchen, right? She chose to do the very best thing in the presence of Jesus. Because she realizes who He is. She is attracted to Jesus, not in a weird way. She's attracted to Jesus because she knows who He is and she wants to be in His presence. She chooses to be there. She has chosen to let the rest of the world's distraction and noises to be shut out. She's chosen that. There are a lot of good things we can do. Work, career paths, school, our kids' sports programs. All those things are good. Making wise decisions about our finances, they're all good. But don't allow them to become distractions where they pit Jesus against them, right? There has to be a priority somewhere along the way where we say, this is the most important thing in my life. This is the very best thing I can do. Nothing else will compete in this arena. That silences the distractions. When you decide what is most important. You get that? And we're going to sing a song here in a moment, and it's really going to cut to a decision, right? To a moment where we all have to decide. Am I going to zero in on who Jesus is and shape my life around Him, or am I going to continue to allow the distractions around me and the noise to shape who I am? Let's stand as we worship.